Alrighty, hello all, and welcome to the first episode of the Basement Takes podcast. My name is Austin, and I'm here with the legendary man with three last names, Mr. Anderson. How are you doing
Hello
today,
there.
sir?
Good.
Alright.
I love your introduction for that.
I mean, it's true. It's definitely very true.
Yeah, I didn't ask for that.
Alrighty. Well, so today we're going to be talking about a pretty exciting topic for me, I know for sure, as something that's a part of the gaming world that I've been a part of for a very long time, and that would be the MMO genre and the state of how it is today in 2020 as of August. I know we have a lot of hype coming up in the future. Not only is there a couple games coming out later on next year, maybe 2 years from now, but just a lot of people and a lot of really big people are kind of talking about MMOs right now. A lot of big streamers have been playing some MMOs, kind of rustling the feathers of the genre a little bit. So I just wanted to kind of put this together and talk about just kind of the state of the MMO gaming community right now and kind of where it's headed in the future. So if we just want to go ahead and start off, I guess, with introductions. Like I said, my name's Austin. I'm probably going to be the host from now on. I'm going to be joined by a couple of other people here and there, picking and choosing based off of their area of expertise, really. But for the most part, my co-host here are pretty versed in the world of gaming. I've been playing video games since I was 3. So I mean, I've been around the block a few times, you could say.
I mean, I've been playing MMOs for
very
as long as you can think.
Yeah, for quite a long time. I mean, everything from World of Warcraft to Knight Online, which nobody's heard of, Guild Wars 2, I mean, Blade and Soul, Black Desert Online, every single MMO that's basically come out that anybody's talked about. I think probably the only MMO that I haven't played was Bless Online, but I don't think anybody really played that game, if I'm being honest.
You play Eve?
I haven't played Eve. I'm not really that big into like spaceships and stuff, so
Into spreadsheets?
yeah, into spreadsheets too. I know. Well, there was one game, kind of spaceship related, WildStar, that was kind of a pipe dream for a lot of people. It was pretty fun for the time that I played it, but I guess it just didn't get enough traction. But that was a pretty promising one. It's from what I saw from when I was playing it, the production quality was pretty high. It's just not many people knew about it. And I guess back then it was just kind of trying to compete with WoW and I don't know, it was just kind of a failure to begin with. But I guess that kind of covers everything as far as like what I've played in the past. I know, Anderson, you've played pretty much everything with me as far as MMOs go. I mean, there's not really a lot that you haven't played. I know you've probably played a couple stuff longer than me, especially like Black Desert Online, stuff like that, but
That's our main difference that we can get into. But
yeah, for the most part, I tend to play more of like Western MMOs, I guess you could say. I was really big into World of Warcraft for a long time. I played Lord of the Rings online for quite a while, even like back in the day before my computer. I was playing on a really shitty laptop. I mean, it was like I've been playing MMOs since before I was even able to play like regular PC games. So. But mostly Western MMOs. I didn't really get into like Final Fantasy 14 or like Blade and Soul. Really, Black Desert Online I played for a while, but as far as like Eastern RPGs, it's not really my forte. But you, on the other hand, that's pretty much you. That was pretty much your go-to thing for a while.
Yeah, most of the I wouldn't say JRPG.
Just like the Eastern MMO side, like just like the Korean, the Chinese, the Japanese made developed. I mean, MMOs.
Obviously you're gonna get a lot of those ones that were just slapped together in a day, and like what was it? Is Blade and Soul, right? That we played for a little bit.
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah, that was like the Chinese made one. The one
very heavily influenced actually. By the Chinese market.
You could play as like the shinobi.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I'm big into more PvP when it comes to MMOs, and they actually do tend to have the action combat, at least in their games, that kind of help that feel. I'm not sure how to describe that.
Yeah. So, and later on, we have a talking point about just like the emergence of like the JRPG kind of influence on the Western market, and like how a lot of the MMOs out right now are out from either Korea or China or Japan. But I get what you mean. So a lot of it's actually a good point. A lot of the Eastern, more like Japanese produced and influenced RPGs are very heavily reliant on their movement and their combat systems.
Yeah, both, like, it's all action combat. You tend to see they really enjoy the less of the tab target, right? And absolutely nothing like WoW.
Oh yeah, almost completely an opposite, like a complete divergence from like the Western style of like very slow, kind of more role playing side, more traditional RPG side, and more towards like action combat, big flashy moves. Stuff like that. I think Black Desert Online is probably one of the best examples of a game that's probably got combat so right that it forgot to worry about the other parts of the game.
I mean, that was a big reason why I really did like Black Desert.
Yeah,
I mean, all right, some of those movesets were fantastic, animation-wise, and the smoothing between them. They nailed that.
Oh yeah, 100%. And I feel like that's one of the biggest strong suits with kind of like the Eastern MMO market is they do combat and they do animations very well, and I think Final Fantasy XIV is another good example of that. Although I've played it for a little while, maybe 10 or 20 levels, but it just wasn't for me. But the videos that I've seen about like the raids in the dungeons, the animations, and all of the like even like the boss animations and like the damage numbers, it's very, very stylistic and very flashy and very kind of I guess not really in your face, but just very high octane animations and stuff, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
I guess I want to get into that first question because I've never asked you this question before, so like I was never sure about your favorite MMO, because we just talked about our styles and what we both enjoy, but I've never actually known like a specific MMO that you absolutely love.
So that, I guess the easy answer, the first thing that comes into my head is Lord of the Rings Online. It's not even because it's necessarily considered a good game, like a good MMO, but just because I guess it holds so much nostalgia for me, as far as like being a huge Lord of the Rings fan and like just being able to play in that world, and the fact that it's extremely accurate to like the Lord of the Rings canon and all of the quests kind of fit into the world.
Dude, I was gonna say that too, because back when we played what would that be like? It was like 7 years ago or so.
Yeah.
The running around, playing the lute, following you around, and just kind of slamming songs out. That's an MMO right there. That's just I can go around, do whatever I want, and be as retarded as I want in any means.
And I think Lord of the Rings, what Lord of the Rings Online does really well is it's a very comforting MMO, and it doesn't take itself seriously at all. Mm-hmm. And I think that's why so many people like it, and it's kind of seen a little bit of a resurgence in players, is because I guess this is kind of a good segue into our next question, but I'll ask you the same question you asked me in just a second. It allows players to just play the game, and there's no BS. There's a cash shop, but I think the company that came in, Standing Stone Games, that kind of took over from Turbine back in the day, they really turned the cash shop into more of like what Guild Wars does, and it's a very cosmetic kind of vanity shop, and it doesn't really have any effect on gameplay really. There's some time savers and XP boosts and stuff, but that's you can find that in any MMO nowadays.
No, and I've never had a problem with those whatsoever. It is not pay to win by any means.
And I feel like that's kind of as well part of the MMO genre and kind of where that stuff came from, which I guess is kind of why a lot of people have issue with seeing that in other parts of gaming. Because like as MMO players, that's kind of been a thing in MMOs for a long time, and it's just kind of recently in the last 5 years kind of bled its way into like mainstream gaming, like with like Battlefront and like Destiny, all these games that are kind of introducing these like cash shops where you can go in and buy these skins and buy these resource packs. I know Ubisoft has been doing it for a while too, but
it's hard to define. I think pay to win should be defined for people that don't really understand it, and it's good to take it into aspect of, like, say, the MMO genre, because right, you can buy the skins, you can buy the time savers, right, your crafting material stuff, but like real pay to win is I pay, you know, to have the best gear, the max level character, right? Which makes sense for some people as that time saver, but I mean, coming out is like there's people who put hundreds of thousands of hours into the game, and you can just buy it. That is kind of I wouldn't say grimy, but that pay to win market, right? That people don't really enjoy.
Yeah, I guess you could technically define pay to win. I think it's the pretty commonly accepted definition of, like, you are paying real money for a tangible in-game advantage over other players.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you are paying real money and skipping the line, basically. You're cutting in line in front of the people that are putting in the time. Yeah, I pay $10, I get a sword that is objectively, statistically better than whatever you can buy, or whatever you can work for in the game. And that doesn't even have to be items that are exclusive to a cash shop. It can be items that, say, I know like mobile games do this a lot, and Elder Scrolls Blades is something I've been playing recently on my phone, just as like a time waster. You can literally buy an armor set in Elder Scrolls Blades and a weapon that you will never find a piece of gear in the game that is better than it.
Oh wow! Okay.
So you just pay $10, boom! I have the best gear in the game, and then it's just you just play, and it's like that is in its essence, that is the most pure form of pay to win, where it's like I am paying to have an advantage in the game.
Yeah, you don't need to do anything else beyond that. You don't need to play the game. You just pay your money.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess I could flip that question on you. What would you say that your favorite MMO of all time is?
So I actually thought about this earlier, because I mean, of course, like you said, I'm big into the JRPG. Sorry, I keep saying RPG. The Eastern MMO genres. And if I had to give a top 3, I'd give number 1 to DC Universe, because they did so many things right, and I'd like to go into that a little bit more after this. But then I give Lord of the Rings Online, just because I've never been super huge into the roleplay aspect in MMOs, or at least not as serious. But that is one that just sucks you into it. It is like you are going to play it, you're going to roleplay as what you want to roleplay as, and have as much fun as you think you can.
Yeah, for sure.
And then probably Black Desert. I'd say tie Black Desert, maybe Guild Wars 2. Just because I've been a huge fan of action style combat, and both those games did something really well with how they play. Not necessarily in, say, storyline connection, but specific just to combat wise.
Yeah, for sure. I think DC Universe Online is a really good answer, just because I think it was a game that a lot of people didn't even know existed for a long time, and if they played it, they didn't. I feel like not many people gave it a fair chance.
No, not at all.
It
you
did
those first couple levels.
It did a lot right, like you said, but it was just kind of a lot of the stuff was kind of empty. Like a lot of there wasn't a lot to do really besides like play the game. I know that kind of is like, well, duh. I mean, that's why you play is to, enjoy the game. But like once you play for a while and you kind of get used to it, you're already kind of doing all there is to do.
Yeah,
like, there's not really. It's like when you look at a game like Star Wars: The Old Republic, it kind of is. I consider kind of in the same genre, like sci-fi MMO. Star Wars: The Old Republic is congested with content. There is so much to do that it's almost discouraging. And I feel like DC Universe, it got the movement right. It got the class system right, where you could basically build your own class. You could create your own superhero and your own superpower, which is very cool. And I feel like a lot of games are kind of starting to catch on to that. Like these cookie cutter, cut and dry classes are kind of old school. Like they're kind of getting phased out.
Don't take off of the initial 3, the strength, dex, intelligence.
Yeah, it's like you have you get the triangle, and that's it. Like you want to be a DPS, a tank, or a healer. Pick one. You can't stray from that. That's kind of technically where like I feel like a lot of MMOs are being left in the dust, and where a lot of MMOs are kind of afraid to innovate on. And I guess that's a good kind of segue into our next little topic, which is like the current state of MMO gaming as a whole. As far as like where the market is right now and what everybody's kind of feeling. I actually watched a video recently from Summit 1G, who is a pretty popular streamer. I'm pretty sure everybody's probably heard of him. Mm-hmm. He's been playing a lot of Elder Scrolls Online recently, and he kind of burnt out on it a little bit and tried to pick up Guild Wars. He's been playing that kind of off and on for a little while. But
I'd even say that's one to be burnt out on, like a lot of these really big popular MMOs.
Yeah, for sure. But there was a video where he was talking to his chat, and he was just looking absolutely depressed. And he's like, "Guys, I need to scratch this MMO itch. Like, there's nothing. Like, there's nothing to play. I load up. I don't want to load up ESO. I don't want to load up Guild Wars. I'm not going to play World of Warcraft. I'm not going to play this, and this." And the chat is just recommending him all of these different games, like all these MMOs, and he's just like, "Guys, like, there's just nothing. Like, there's just nothing out right now. There's no MMOs, and the entire genre, at least in my opinion, the entire genre is just stuck in this like state of complacency, where everything is the same." Every, like, World of Warcraft has just become an absolute grind fest. Just the Chinese style market is just taken over, and like, it's like,
I'm glad you say that.
It's like grind your mind out, get a piece of gear that you might not even need or want, and it's like, well, better luck next week. Grind your fucking eyes out again, and hopefully pray to God that you get what you want. And if you don't, it's just the most depressing, like, gear treadmill in the world. And then there's like a lot of people. Guild Wars, you can say, is probably one of the games that has kind of strayed away from the crowd, and I have my opinions on it with like the time gating on the crafting, and like it kind of turns a lot of people away.
It's still essentially a grind at that point. And
I feel like a lot of MMOs feel like, I guess to kind of commentate on like the state now, Lord of the Rings Online, I feel like why it's such a pure MMO experience is because there's not really a grind. Like playing the game and getting to max level is the game, and then after that you can do your professions and you can do in-game content and your instance battlegrounds and all of your like raids and stuff. But the joy of playing the game in Lord of the Rings Online is the questing experience and the leveling up and the RPG side of it, the role-playing game. You are playing your character, and you are role-playing as a character in Middle-earth.
Yeah, it's the experience. It's not trying to just make sure that you are the best of the best.
And I feel like a lot of MMOs now, the leveling experience is just a necessity. It's like, just get it out of the way, don't read any of the text quests, don't worry about doing anything. You're going to get better gear. Don't worry about crafting. Don't worry about doing anything except for getting to max level. Once you get to max level, then you can play the game. Mm-hmm. It's like, and it just becomes such a chore, especially for new players. It's like the MMO market has like almost no new players. And when you talk to people that don't play MMOs, one of the things that you hear them say is, "Oh, it's just boring."
Yeah, like I don't have the time.
Yeah, I don't have the time. MMOs are boring. Why would I want to play World of Warcraft when I can go play Call of Duty? Or why would I want to play World of Warcraft? I can go play Apex Legends, or I can go play, I guess like what's a popular like RPG like Skyrim. It's like I can play Skyrim and there's gratification around every corner, or like, But the people that have been playing MMOs for a long time, they get it, but they are aware of the new player experience and they know what they're getting going into it.
Mm-hmm. See, I think that a lot of these, at least, especially a lot of the copies that are coming out, but the fact that you said it's really based on that Chinese market, I don't mean anything by that, but trying to say that they all have this cookie cutter pick out, where is you load into the game, like you said, it is a chore. Your goal is just to level up as fast as you can, and the whole point of the MMO is to explore for start level to end level content, meaning go across the world. And it is really, there's nothing to it. There's no thinking. There's no content. While there can be stories that'll take you from point A to point B, there's no, right. You're just gonna bleed right through it.
Yeah.
And that was something why I liked DC Universe, is because while it's the exact same, yes, you're gonna play through this content. You're gonna go from the low level zone to the high level zone. That makes the MMO or the leveling experience, the whole experience of the game and just playing it more exciting. Like it puts you into the role playing aspect, a bit like Loader.
Yeah, I think that's definitely true. I think a lot of especially like when you look at content in later expansions in like World of Warcraft, a lot of the leveling experience is it's just zone completion. That's all it is. Like, I mean, it's the same. It's probably going to be the same thing in Shadowlands too. I mean, I haven't been keeping so much on top of WoW, but I mean, really, WoW hasn't really changed from its formula for so long that it's like, even in Legion, I remember, you're just going through zones, completing zone quests. That's all you're doing. You're just going through. You're burning through it. WoW is a kind of an example where you can go in and you can kind of, I mean, you can read the quest dialogue and you can do that, but nobody does that these days because it's just like most of the games, like ESO does it really well, where all of the quests are voice acted. They're all, I mean, it's an Elder Scrolls style questing experience, and it's very enjoyable and it's very easy to get into the roleplay. But a lot of these MMOs, especially the Eastern MMOs, literally have auto run because they understand that people don't like the questing experience. So they say, here, we're gonna take your hands off the keyboard and we're gonna get you to point A for point B for you, and we're gonna have all the objectives be as brainless as possible. We'll have some interesting kind of objectives sprinkled in here and there, and we'll have something to kind of grab your attention. But for the most part, it's like, run to this area, kill 35 wolves, grind this area for a while till you get to the next area, level 10 to 20. Once you're level 20, go into the next zone. Bit, bam, bam, wash, rinse, and repeat. And I feel like
exactly Guild Wars right there.
Yeah, I mean, Guild Wars literally has an entire system of zone completion. That's a necessity. That's a necessary part of the game to get, your relevant gear and attributes and stuff. And so I just feel like a lot of the MMOs that are out right now, minus, I would probably say, like, Elder Scrolls Online is very different. It's still an MMO, but it's very different. And I feel like a lot of people that don't like MMOs would probably like it, just because the story and the kind of role-playing aspect of it is very on point and probably has one of the best examples of, if people want a role-playing experience in an MMO, that's probably one of the best examples you can give them. Because like I said, it's got the fully voice-acted quests. They're all... it's not a checklist. You're not accepting 30 quests, going and knocking them all out at once and then turning them all in. I mean, it's very... You are doing a quest, and that is the quest you do until you finish it, and then you go find someone else that needs help. But I feel like a lot of these like popular kind of cookie cutter MMOs are that's all it is it's just zone completion. You're just going through an area, just getting it out of the way so that you can get to the in-game content and play with your friends. And one of the
said, I remember. Sorry to interrupt.
That's okay.
I remember we played. It was Blade and Soul right before we played Black Desert, and Blade and Soul basically was a budget variant of Black Desert. It was exactly the same game, exactly the same style of combat. Everything about it was just a cheaper version. It was the free version.
Oh yeah, 100%. It was just kind of like the Walmart Black Desert Online. And I feel like again, going back to what I was saying earlier, a lot of the MMOs that are coming out, where it's like they're just trying to get their foothold in the market, and these games that are just these really kind of thoughtless, uninspired MMOs that are coming out they're just time wasters. I mean, they're almost like borderline mobile games, where you log in, you do a bunch of stuff on a checklist, and then you log out. And there's no soul to it. There's no point in playing for longer than you have to. once you complete all of your objectives for the day, what's the point in keeping playing?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you get on an alt and you do the same thing over again. That's what's the fun in that? Like, there's no soul there. There's no essence and there's no charm. And I guess kind of segueing from that, going on into kind of like our next topic is going into like the emergence of the Eastern, kind of the JRPG influence on our Western market of like bringing these games like Final Fantasy XIV and Phantasy Star Online and kind of like all these like Blade and Soul, Black Desert. Black Desert arguably kind of rocketed this kind of genre into the Western market.
Well, very much so.
Their influence on games, even like World of Warcraft, and like kind of how they're shaping the market for the better, some might say, and for the worse, some might say. So, I guess starting off, my biggest example, going back to World of Warcraft is going to be on a firing line today. But there's just like this whole culture of like all you're doing in WoW in the end game is grinding gear. That is all you're doing. You never stop, and once you stop, it's already the gear that you've ground is already irrelevant. And a lot of the like especially Black Desert Online and like Terra and stuff like this. Terra is a very good example of a game where the grind never stops. Like you are constantly 100% boom, boom, boom. I gotta get through. I gotta level up my awakened weapon. I gotta go through all this stuff. I'm just going through dungeons just to go through them. I don't give a fuck about the story. It doesn't even exist. Like all this stuff. Like it's just like you're going through. And a lot of people, if you ask, like, what was Battle for Azeroth even about in World of Warcraft? They'd be like, I don't know. I mean, I guess there was kind of a story there, but there was no.
The next high level content came out.
Yeah, it's like we have to get ready for raid. We have to get ready for raid. We have to get ready for the next expansion. We're constantly grinding, getting ready for the next content. And like you look at this, like the kind of Eastern side of it. I mean, that's really. I hope. I mean, there's a lot of things on the internet about Final Fantasy XIV. If you say anything bad about them, you're straight to the gallows. But I feel like I've even talked to people. I have second-hand accounts of people that play that game religiously, and even they say Final Fantasy XIV is considered to have a really good story, but even they say that they couldn't be bothered to focus on the story because they just don't care. They just don't care anymore. Nobody cares about the heart of the role-playing game side of the MMO. They don't care about the story, why the different characters are who they are, and what their motives are. And a lot of games like Black Desert Online and like Terra and all these very popular Eastern games and Final Fantasy that are coming over, you have that small pocket of people that do, but for the most part, it's all about the grind, and it's all about the mechanics, and it's all about getting better at the game itself. And I feel like that's something back in the day that WoW had going for it very, very strong, was the world building and the writing were very good, and they sucked people in, and people were invested in the characters and in the novels and in the world of WoW. And that's what made it so popular in the first place, is it sucked people into this world of Azeroth. And the same thing can be said about like Lord of the Rings Online, is like you don't play Lord of the Rings Online for the in-game content. You don't play it to be the best Lotro player in the world. You play it to be a part of this beautiful world and this well-sculpted world. Mm-hmm. And I feel like that's what this kind of like this influence of like these just time-wasting MMOs are coming in and kind of ruining that like that core aspect of the world building of these MMOs. Are the perfect game genre for these massive epic storylines that are just wasted over these years, and it's just like it's just kind of hard to see.
I think it's hard to get people out of that mindset. You can't necessarily just blame the developer for this problem, right? Is because the people that are playing a lot of these MMOs, a lot of the lower level, like, hey, I'm just gonna go in and say the people that enjoy the pay to win market, I'm there to grind to the max level and play the game at max level and then have my way and be done. A lot of people are in that mindset when they get into these games, that like they're not going to enjoy the world, or they're going to enjoy it to a small fraction. And I want to play the game right now, max level. Okay, done. All right, move on to the next one.
Yeah.
And they've realized this. They're like, okay, cool. This is what the people want. We're going to just start releasing all these same MMOs because this is what people like. I mean, I definitely think this is something that can easily be changed, though.
Yeah, I think so. I guess I can kind of go on to the next thing where it's like, what are people looking for in MMOs? Like, what are the features that, people want in MMOs that are coming up, and why are so many of these MMOs like why are so many of them failing? Like, what is the deal with all these games coming out, and people are so excited for them, and they play them day one, and like, man, like this is just game just sucks. Like, they're not grabbing people anymore, and I'm like, this is honestly like the question that, like, this one and the next one are probably like the two questions that I'm the most interested in talking about, because I feel like this is something that a lot of people have had on their minds of like this is potentially what is, like, these features that are missing are potentially what is ruining, the market as a whole. So,
well, like you said earlier, we are in this huge MMO rut right now. We
oh
are
yeah,
not
absolute
getting
drought.
content that people want to sit there and play like they did back then, right? When WoW first dropped, when Wrath of the Lich King first dropped, and everybody was all over it, and like you could sit there and basically die just trying to play it because you didn't want to leave.
Yeah, right. I think that has to go back to just like back then. Like I said, like the world building and the setting and just all of the hype and the quality of the content and the quality of the dungeons and the raids, and I mean, they just struck gold, and I feel like that's why Wrath of the Lich King was so popular. I mean, it was a combination. They literally did everything right, and
well, that
go ahead.
And I believe that it was new to the time period that they were being released. Right, not a lot of people had seen content like that.
Yeah. And I think probably the first thing that comes to mind when I think about what MMOs failed to deliver on, is probably just like, I honestly think that people are tired of grinding. I think that people are tired of logging on and having a grocery list of stuff they have to do, and they log on to World of Warcraft, or they log on to Guild Wars, or they log on to whatever game it is that they're playing recently, and they just look at all of the stuff that you get into a routine of doing, and they're just like, I don't want to do all this shit. I wish, like, I just want to play the game. I don't want to have to run around to 18 different cities and do the same dungeons I've been doing over and over again just to get a certain material that only comes from this certain area, and just to get a piece of gear that doesn't do anything for my character. It gives me a very, very minimal upgrade in power, and then I can't do anything else because all my dailies are done. Okay, time to hop on an alt and do the same thing over and over again. And it's like there's no soul there. There's nothing to grab you. It's like, if I wanted to do a checklist of things, like, I would just go play Minecraft. I would just go gather. I would go mine fucking iron all day in a mine and just build a house. Like,
sorry.
Go ahead.
The hard part, I think, to that problem is that people want the gratification of, say, the grind, right? While trying to intermingle it into this story, into not playing as much or not grinding as much as the high tier players that play for 24 hours a day, right? So the fact that you can get this incredibly special armor by taking all this time and gathering all these tiny ingredients, and while it might take you longer, you are still able to get it without, say, playing that extensive period of time.
Yeah. And so I never really played back in. I mean, I'm not super old, but like I never played back in like classic WoW. But I played World of Warcraft Classic. Like as far as like the actual, like as far as like the new one that came out, the one that they did where they kind of remastered it, you know. And you see all these big streamers playing, and you wonder like why are they deciding to play classic WoW over live retail World of Warcraft, right? You have to ask yourself, like, what is classic WoW doing that is so much better than the old or the game right now? And if you look at it and look at like what people are doing right now, like people are grinding to get the Scarab Lord, all the Scarab Lord stuff, and they are trying to get Thunder Fury, or they're trying to get Ragnaros' hammer, like all these very impactful, super like awesome weapons that nowadays in games you get these like super awesome powerful weapons and they don't do anything.
Well, not like, that they also don't do anything, they don't mean anything.
Yeah, they don't matter. Everybody has them. They're handing them out like fucking like Mormons going door to door. Like they're just putting them in your door when they walk by. Like everybody gets these like artifact weapons, and everybody gets these artifact capes and these Hearts of Azeroth, and like everybody gets these super powerful, oh look, I'm so powerful, but like you walk up into a dungeon, you're the same as the dude to the right of you. But you go into classic WoW and you see a dude with fucking Thunder Fury, or Thunder Fury, right? I think that's what it's called. No.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so you walk in and they're like holy shit, that's fucking big dick energy. Like that guy's got fucking Ragnaros' hammer. That guy's got Thunder Fury. That guy's got the fucking, like this guy's a Scarab Lord. This guy's Grand Marshal. Like holy crap, this guy is like really good at the game. And you get these things that are so meaningful, and it's like that doesn't exist anymore really. In a lot of MMOs, like even like legendary drops and like World of Warcraft in Live, like you get a legendary ring, it's like okay, great. Like what does that do for me? It's just another piece of the puzzle. I still need the other, X amount of armor pieces to even be relevant in current content. But like, that's what I think a lot of, so like, Destiny is very borderline. I mean, it is an MMO, but it's like an FPS MMO, where it has MMO elements, but, so like, if you look at a game like Destiny, where you go into a raid, and there's 6 people, those 6 people, every single one of those people matters in that raid. And if you have an exotic that is a good exotic and that thing drops for you, that feels good. Like that feels really good, because then you know that you have an advantage because you did the hard content and you got rewarded for doing the hard content.
Yeah. And
you did something, you completed the raid and you got that item that no one else has. And you take that item into a raid with you, or you take that item out into the open world and you feel like a fucking badass walking around with that thing.
I remember playing a PvP match. What was the special wave mode? Where you're facing another team and you can go in. For Destiny, I can't remember the name.
In Crucible or Iron Banner?
No. It was the
Gambit.
Yes, Gambit.
Yeah, Gambit. Yeah.
But I remember playing, like, because I only kind of exclusively played PvP, but it still makes sense in this case that I at the end of a match, I not necessarily grinded it enough that eventually this legendary bow dropped, and I like the fact that the game, I don't know if it deliberately did this whatsoever, but I kind of exclusively used a lot of bows, so this bow dropped for me. And it was a wonderful feeling, like, oh my god, like look at what I just got, because I've been doing well in these categories.
Yeah, I mean, you put in the effort and you're rewarded for putting in the effort. You play the game, and Destiny is a grind, and it's considered a grind fest, but once you are at the end of that grind, there is a meaningful reward at the end of that tunnel. I mean, there is something that you're willing to grind for. You can see that item. But games like World of Warcraft, you're grinding and you're getting all these things just for the chance of maybe getting something that you wanted. Because there's a random roll at the end. I mean, you kill a boss and it might drop what you wanted, but it might drop something that you've already got, or you...
Or the hard part is the fact that it gives you a piece.
Yeah.
of the thing that you wanted.
Or like in Guild Wars, where you're grinding for weeks. It's like, oh, I finally got it. One piece of Ascended gear after a month. Hell yeah. Or like,
Yeah.
you do all these achievements for your legendary weapons. Where something that turned me off of the game is there's a part, and like I've talked to y'all and our friends about this before. They didn't hear the end of it. I played a Guardian, and there's one of the Guardian's legendary weapons is you have to go down underground into this dude's laboratory, and you have to buy pages of his research to complete his like research journal for an achievement, and the achievement is part of the legendary quest line. But what they don't tell you is going down into this place, you can only buy one page of the journal per day. So there are like 17 pages, so it takes like 17 real, or no, it was weeks. It was weeks. It took you can only buy them once per week. So on weekly reset, you could go down there. So every Tuesday, I would go down to this fucking laboratory and buy this stupid page for this. So it would take like 17 weeks of real time to do one achievement for this legendary quest. That's
the puzzle,
and that's one piece of at least 30 steps of this quest. And like you talk about like the epitome of time wasting, and just like you get this legendary weapon at the end of the day, and it's like, yeah, it's cool, but like, was it really worth all that time to get this one weapon where that's not even what makes or breaks your build? It's just like, it's kind of demotivating to do that. And you look at these games, like the games that are out right now, and I feel like this is probably the biggest thing of like, nothing really feels like meaningful, and a lot of the stuff that you do, you're just kind of doing it because you have to, and you're doing it because it's there, and it's the stuff that I feel like a lot of the MMOs that come out right now, or that are coming out in the future too, and we're going to get into Ashes of Creation, and we're going to get into New World soon. But you look at the MMOs that are coming out, and a lot of the stuff that you do has an impact on not only your character, but on the world as well. And I feel like that is a very exciting possibility. Like that, not only are you playing just for your character, but you are playing for the betterment of your community as well, and your guild, and you are physically benefiting the world, not only getting this stuff for your character. So
I think that's a great solution, actually, because it's hard to think. Is like you have two routes, right? In where you say have this time locked legendary. It takes so much time to get it, and then at the end you're like, oh well, I exclusively spent all my time trying to do this. Now I don't want to do anything, even though I have it. The solutions is like, okay, cool, I can say give you more rewards for more things that you do, for playing PvP, for playing Worldly World, for doing random quests. Cool, I'm gonna give you more.
Yeah, if you want the grind to go faster, do more stuff.
Well, that's going to speed up the game a lot, and I still believe that's not fixing the problem of
definitely not
going to hit the end and just be like, it's done, whatever. I like the solution instead of distract the player and give them other meaningful events and actions that they aren't going is ever so often, to the point that they might even forget to go down and buy their weekly page. And they're like, oh crap, I was doing all this other stuff. Now let me go continue on the exciting part that I wanted.
Yeah, it's like why would I want to grind when there's all this other fun stuff to do? Like it's like I'm not gonna worry about crafting this legendary. I'll do it later. I want to do, insert other activity here. Like, man, I want to grind, but I really just want to play PvP because the PvP is so good. Or like man, like I want to do all this like grinding, but I really don't because this new dungeon came out and it's amazing. Like I just want to go experience that again. Or like I want to go do caravan PvP like that's coming up in Active Creation. Or like, I want to go level up this node. I want to go do all this stuff. Or like maybe I want to focus on crafting because crafting has a super big impact and it's not time gated. And like I feel like that's what ESO does really well is, too. Like I've been playing a lot of Elder Scrolls Online recently. And the crafting in that game feels good because not only are you like crafting for like a pastime, but you're physically crafting relevant gear for your level. Like I can go in and I can spend an hour gathering materials, or if I don't want to craft, I can just go get gear from quests. But a lot of the time, the gear that you can craft, and none of it's time gated, which is perfect. So that means I can put as much time as I want into it, so it makes me want to play. Like, it's like, I go out, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to craft all day today. At the end of that day, into that 5, 6, 7 hour play session, I have a full set of enchanted, highest stat, min-maxed gear for my level that I can. Now, granted, I haven't gotten to the end game yet, so I don't know what the gear acquisition looks like, and I know that, like, the crafting only gets you so far in that game, but as of right now...
It's for your position that you are currently in.
Yeah, so, like, the level 20 to 25 areas, like, where I'm at right now, but, like, I'm having fun crafting the gear and getting that, like, oh, I want to put, like, you know, I want to spend time, I want to level up my enchanting, and I want to make sure that I have maximum magicka enchantments on all of my gear, and, like, I want to be the best at my level that I am right now. It's like, I can go out and do it. I don't have to wait for these internal timers or these... I don't have to go do a stupid grind. I just walk out of the city, go find the wood, go find the ore, bring it back to the city and craft the gear. It's that simple. Like, it's so simple. And there's no paywalling, there's no time gating, there's no random chances of the gear breaking randomly. It's just pure crafting. It's pure reward. And the same thing with, like, questing. It's like, I want to go out and I want to do the main story. Great, go do it. It's not level restricted. It's not time restricted. It's not... I mean, you have to have the current expansion, but, like, it's not... There's no restrictions. Like, if I want to go through the main storyline of the zone that I'm in at level 1, go fucking do it. Go do everything you want to do at that level. You know, it's a perfect example of, like, do you want to focus on the grinding? Do you want to focus on, you know, busting out your crafting levels early on? Or do you want to just enjoy the story? Do you want to just play the game? Do you want to not even care about min-maxing? You can. And it goes back to, like, to classes, and, like goes back to, like, the class triangle of, like, you're not locked into, like, this is the meta build. If you don't play this, you're not going to have fun. Every single class, people argue, as they always do, like, oh, well, you're not getting the most out of your class unless you use these abilities. But, like, I randomly had to heal in a dungeon recently, like yesterday, and I play as a Templar. I whipped out my healing staff. I did fine. I'm not even healing spec, but I pulled out my healing spec and I kept everybody alive perfectly fine. You know, and again, I can't speak for, like, in-game content. I don't know what dungeoning and raiding is like in in-game content, but, like, you would think that in an MMO, if you're not a healer, don't even try to heal because you're not going to be able to keep up. But the way the game is set up, everybody can be or do anything they want. And it's good. It allows so much freedom, and it allows you to feel like you have an impact doing what you want to do.
Exactly, and it really builds into that role-playing aspect where it's like there are no limitations. If you want to go be naked and play a loot on a table all day, every day, and that is what you have fun doing, then by all means,
go do it. Yeah, go do it. Go do what you want to do. And, like, if you want to play an untraditional build and you want to fuck around with skill points and you want to bring your own homebrew something into a dungeon, you're not going to be laughed at because it's not a meta build. Like, if you're not playing Condi DPS, or you're not playing, like, stupid hyper meta min maxy stuff, then you're not going to have fun. It's like you can have fun. I don't want to focus on being the absolute best at a certain thing. I want to play around. I want to do what I want to do. And I feel like that's, again, like, at the end of the day, that's what the core essence of, like, an MMORPG should be, is you should be able to play, you should be able to do a role-playing game and play whatever you want, and not necessarily have it be good, because there has to be balance. I mean, there has to be some stuff that's not as good as other stuff, and you have to be able to, if you want to be at the top, you have to be willing to sacrifice the flavor for actually doing what the best strategy is. But
of course, but being able to say, if you have a bunch of in-game skill and you just want to play this, like, you are a healer DPS kind of build, right? Then being able to compete with the people who are playing these hugely popular and meta builds.
Yeah, being able to at least keep up. Not even compete with them, just like that you are doing relevant numbers in a dungeon to where they're not like, what the fuck are you doing, dude? Like, why are you playing this stupid class? Like, it's like, well, what's the point of playing a game if I'm pigeonholed into playing one class? It's like that's not fun. And I feel like, again, that's kind of what these a lot of these like modern MMOs are. It's like, if you're not playing what's on the top of the DPS charts, you won't even get accepted into a raid group. Like, your guild's not going to invite you to raid because you're not going to be able to put up relevant damage. And so I feel like that's something that MMOs could work on, and why so many fail to deliver is because they pigeonhole people into playing specific roles, and people get burnt out really fast. Either it be from they're just not interested in that class and they don't want to get good at that, or they couldn't be bothered. They're just like, this is just not fun. Like, I'm just not enjoying being this specific subclass of this thing. It's just not fun. Or they get yelled at constantly for not keeping up, and just like let people play what they want to play, and if they don't want to be competitive, then don't force them to be.
The pressure is there to be something that you don't want to be.
Hey, shush.
That's actually why I believe Ashes, as it comes into more light, the ideas that they are pushing for. And of course, we don't know all too much. They do quote that they are going to complete every ideal that they've come out and said that they will do, without saying any more. But it's something that they are very heavily working on and would like to see be rid of in the MMO genre.
Yeah, for sure. I guess that can technically, I guess now kind of segue into the next topic of the upcoming MMOs that are coming out, like Ashes of Creation and New World, and all of this hype that kind of goes hand in hand with like the hype of new MMOs. And is the hype the reason why all of these MMOs are blown out of proportion and people are kind of headcanoning their own outcomes for the popularity, and they come out and people are just severely disappointed? And you need not look farther than Kickstarter and all of these like Kickstarter MMOs. And I know we've talked about this a lot, like just in our own time, about like even earlier today we were talking about like Chronicles of Illyria, and like the games that promise so much but are just way too big for their boots, and they come out and they're just soulless, empty shells of what they promised they would be. And I feel like a lot of that has to do with the hype train, and all of these games are being ruined by the expectations that the players are setting for them. And a lot of it too is the developer's fault. I mean, for promising all these things and then just failing to deliver.
Well,
I think people are just real quick. I think that people are tired of having their hopes get put up and then just absolutely shattered over and over again.
Oh yeah, no, and I mean, I like, even myself, I fall into this category. Like you see something, you're like, oh wow, cool, but I don't want to pass all of the blame onto the developers in this. And
yeah, for sure, it can't be only their fault. I mean,
this is something that I've really liked seeing Ashes do, is every kind of either large, medium, doesn't really matter, these game development studios come out and they're saying, hey, we're going to release this game. They show you this trailer, and then they start moving on with the production process. Mm-hmm. And they only show bits and pieces to the market, and then return, listen to what the market has to say, where they're like, wow, look at this, cool, I hope there's this, right, all these effects, and they're like, maybe that's a good idea, we'll start adding that in. And then they start creep rolling their game. They start adding content that they can't really do because they think the market will like that. Yeah. Ashes has been moving towards the side of they want to openly have channels of communication with their player base.
Yeah, just extreme transparency.
Exactly. It's like, without giving away everything that we're going to do, if we just give you a general idea of everything that we plan, we don't plan on doing more than this, less than this. We're going to do this. Give us ideas if we show you bits and pieces on how you think these parts should play. And that keeps the company itself from spiraling out of control and then losing track of their project.
Oh yeah, I think communication, especially with when you have a lot of hype, I think is almost more important than just showing these like flashy gameplay trailers and making those empty promises. And
It's like you look at the way that Ashes of Creation and I feel like a lot of there aren't really too many MMOs coming out right now. I guess the two main ones that are Ashes of Creation and New World for the most part. But you look at the way they're handling it and the way that they're handling their community outreach and like the PR side of it is like Ashes of Creation, the literal CEO and founder of the studio has a direct open line to talk to his community on the Discord server. And like he's constantly on all of their live streams, constantly putting out stuff on Twitter, responding to Reddit posts, clarifying stuff. He's just extremely passionate about the game and wanting people to be passionate about the game as well. And that's one of the reasons why I feel like people were skeptical at first, but then a lot of the big like streamers started getting on board and they started talking about it, and he was getting into Discord calls with them and talking about the game and, you know, being that first line of communication with them and showing the world that this is kind of like almost a collaborative effort with the community, and that the game is going to be very community focused as well whenever you're playing too.
It's a passion project. It's not.
Yeah, I mean,
not a game that just released.
It comes from somebody who is in our shoes and who is in a lot of people's shoes, where he is sick and tired of the state of complacency that the MMO market is in, and there's the dragging on of these over recycled bad features and this content that nobody wants, and the lack of communication and just the stale MMO market. And I mean, even the inspiration behind this episode is like the reason why he decided to take matters into his own hands and founded the studio and get a bunch of people that he trusted from other companies like Sony Entertainment and Blizzard, like ex-Blizzard story writers and quest designers, and all of these people that he hand cherry-picked to be a part of this game, because he is a MMO gamer at heart. I mean, he's played EverQuest, he's played Lineage. He'd never played WoW because he thought that it was kind of bad. To each their own, but he comes from this background of a very strong MMO background, and just a gaming background in general, and drawing these features that he likes and that he thinks are very good. And I mean, you want to talk about the impact. I mean, like making your character feel important. Like this is probably going to turn into like this whole segment is like Ashes of Creation, the podcast. But I mean, it really is the most promising thing and like the silver lining. And I feel like if this game fails, I don't know if people can take it anymore with MMOs. Like, I feel like this is kind of like the last straw for a lot of people. Oh, yeah. Like, if Ashes fails, I don't know what else there is. I mean, New World is going to be a good game, and I feel like they made the right chance. They made the right choice to delay it, because from what we've played and the stress test, and it has all of the core features, but it definitely is nowhere near a good, well-rounded, polished game. And if they would have released it, it would have just flown right into the trash bin with everybody else. I mean, it would have been something that everybody was like, oh, that was fun for a month. Let's move on to the next thing. But the way it's shaping up, it seems like they're really taking all the criticism to heart, and they're turning it into something that could potentially give Ashes a run for its money if Ashes isn't careful. But
yeah, they have that hype and they realize it. They'd like to roll with it.
And they're giving people good kind of peeks into the development, and they're lifting the NDA come the end of August, and allowing people to show and give their honest opinions. And but real quick before I get distracted, going back to Ashes of Creation, wanting people to feel powerful and impactful. I mean, you look at the way that they're designing the game, where the game is player driven. There is not some overarching unchangeable backbone that the players can't influence, and that the world is kind of going on without them doing anything. the world is literally built by the players.
Mm-hmm.
And like their nodes that are developed by the players, and like your guild is the driving force behind the impact in the game. Like your character can physically change the world, and that's something that we haven't really seen ever happen. And that's something that New World is doing as well, with like the player-driven economy and like no NPC vendors, and like players get to set the tax rates in cities, and like they get to set property tax, and like just like the way that like the factions are run by the players, and the faction quests are done like in open world PvP and stuff like that. Like the player driven side of the game is what will make or break, I feel like, the future of the MMOs. And people are so tired of just being a pawn and just logging on, like I said, doing this like grocery list of just this like soulless activities. I mean, when you feel like your actions are impacting not only your character, but also they're impacting your guild, and they're furthering the world for a positive outcome, that is the future. When you want to talk about the future of MMOs, that I feel like is what is going to be the end goal.
No, I like that you said that, because it really is. If these MMOs aren't big and they don't do them well, then this genre is going to be defined by the exploration method that we talked about earlier. Is that an MMO is defined? You're just going to go from 1 to 90 through these zones, and it's going to be grindy, and it's going to fall off the map. Like, this is same genre, whole different game. You're keeping players in an area. There's not a lot of exploration. Instead, they're making you work with other players.
Yes, again, you mentioned the working with other players. It's like you look at the way the MMOs have been and the way that they've kind of gone, and WoW is 100% guilty of kind of perpetuating this like standard for MMOs of group finder and not having to cooperate with anybody ever. You can play WoW completely solo, not ever talk to a single person ever again. Like, all you have to do is just hit a button, queue for a dungeon, boom, bam, you're good. Ashes, you have to talk to somebody. You have to walk to the dungeon. You have to. I mean, you can get summoned by your companions or like your guildies, but you have to enter the dungeon together. You have to form the dungeon groups manually. You have to be social. It is a massively multiplayer online. It is not a massively multiplayer single. It's not a massively single player online RPG. You have to work with other people to build this world. And because you have to work with other people, finding people that work well with you and making your character somebody that works well with others is going to be a big part of the game. And working with your guild and working with your friends and your group mates and filling the gaps and being important. Like, if you want a crafter and nobody's a crafter in your guild, you have to do that. You will be an impactful member of the game world. Like, you are going to be... It's player driven. Like, you as a player, you are what decides is important in the game. Mm-hmm. And I feel like that is such a factor that like a lot of these games, like, you're not just a visitor in this world. Like, it is your world and you are living in it. It's so important coming up in these next games. And if they don't nail that, I just like, you can get in your head and you can talk about like, oh, I hope it's this, but the way that it's shaping out, I mean, it truly is shaping out to be that way.
That's what I'm beyond excited. It's fulfilling all the roles in both. I've never been big, like I said, in RP for kind of any MMO.
Yeah.
But holy crap, with Ashes is if I want to RP as a PvPer and say I want to be this rogue, my goal in this game is I want to say be hired by people to go and protect caravans, siege castles, like that's the RP side that's gonna draw you into the world and keep you coming back.
Oh yeah.
Every time.
Yeah, it's just the thought alone of just being able to, and we've talked to people in the community and like, I've already literally joined a guild and the game is, X amount of years away. And we've talked to people like-minded that that is a very exciting aspect of the game, is like getting that plan together of like, okay, like, we're gonna be crafters and we're gonna be warriors and we're gonna be this and we're gonna be this, and being able to specialize and have your role be important and meaningful that's exciting, and that's what I feel like is going to carry this game. If it delivers, is going to carry it for years. I mean, like, it's like you need a thief to get into certain rooms and dungeons. Like, you need somebody who is specialized in opening gates and chests and secret passageways. And just like D&D, just like you need a thief to detect traps, you need a thief to be able to get into these passageways and to get treasure. So it's like, not everybody can do it. It's not a participation trophy, and I feel like that is important as well, where it's like, if you want to be good and you want to, get the most out of the game, the collaborative effort and the drive to want to be helpful to your guildmates and to your party mates and to complete stuff to the best of its ability, you have to be able to specialize. And
Yeah,
so it's like, if you want, like, if you go into a dungeon and there's a secret passageway and you're like, oh man, like, I wish we had, Anderson. I wish we had Anderson here as the rogue to unlock this door, because he is like our rogue of the guild. And like, you may have other ones, but it's like he's the best. Or it's like, if you want to be the PvPer and you want to be the caravan, they're not going to get someone who's focused their entire gaming into crafting. They're not going to get the merchant to guard a caravan. They're going to get the people who are trained as the warriors into the game, And so that's what is important at the end
I
of the
love
day.
the fact that they are taking away the whole grind. It's the whole that anybody can be the best of the best. It's, you now have to work and find the people who are best in the categories that you need for this portion of the game. Like, there's the whole economic system in Ashes was really cool, because you can be the best in I say economically in the world. You can be a huge trade center that everybody knows and has been built by players, and you need to go and find people that specifically know how to go and craft and process materials, know where to find specific materials, and know other people in the players in the game that know where what they're doing in their area and have the materials.
Yeah, the collaborative, cooperative, online aspect of the MMO. I mean, the O in MMO is online. It's like there are other players around you. You need to talk to them and you need to collaborate and fill in the gaps of, like, it's like, oh, I'm an amazing warrior, but I'm a terrible crafter. It's like, you are a crafter. Like, help me craft gear. Like, just like creating that organic, like, community in that ecosystem.
Natural world.
Yeah, making it like I said earlier, like a world that you are just living in, and you're not just a visitor. You're not just some character walking around in this, machine. You are. It is a living world, and it feels like you're actually a part of it and making an impact. I think that's very important.
Right.
So going on, I guess, to our last topic of, we've talked about the past, like MMOs in the past, kind of like where we are now, kind of what's coming up, and like the hype of new MMOs. I want to talk about a little about like the future of the MMO genre. We kind of already have touched on it a little bit with Ashes, and taking these leaps into this kind of very ambitious side of MMOs, with like bringing it back full circle around to the community aspect, and like pushing for this like very intuitive, organic, these like big, like living worlds. Where do you think the genre, like, what do you think is next for MMOs as a whole, and what do you think could possibly, like, it's kind of a big question and a little of an intimidating one, but what do you think could save the genre as a whole?
That's a really good point. First, I believe if Ashes takes off, if New World takes off and people enjoy this, what I personally would like to see, and I say this as I like to develop games as well, and I've been thinking of huge ideas that I would like to make later in life, is that not to take this as, let me copy this this idea and move forward with it, but instead to move forward with, let me think of a simple concept, like right. Ashes is taking your typical MMO style of let me go out and explore, and it's turning it into the entire other opposite style of let's keep people in an area and see what happens. And those small tweaks to how the game is just designed. It's not how it's programmed, how like, right? It is purely game design based.
Yeah.
I would like people to think like, hey, I can start doing stuff like this.
Yeah, I think the MMO genre is in such a state of complacency that people are almost scared to innovate and to do what Ashes is doing and what New World is doing, and kind of breaking the mold but staying true to like the classic, like the kind of purest RPG mindset of like this is new and this is kind of ambitious and this is innovative, but it doesn't stray and try to be something that it's not. Mm-hmm. And I feel like that's why a lot of the MMOs that it's kind of a good point. A lot of the MMOs that are out right now are trying to be too much, and they're kind of trying to break the mold, but they're doing it in the wrong way and focusing on one aspect and just blowing it way out of proportion. So like with BDO, it's like the combat is very innovative and very new and very fresh and very modern, but the other parts of the game are boring, for lack of a better word. Like they're just
exactly the same.
It's like it's you can find it in any other MMO. And you can do that. You can take stuff, which is like what Ashes is doing, is they're taking the best parts of MMOs, but they're also introducing core mechanics that we haven't seen before. Or if we have seen before, they haven't been done right. And they're trying to look at the state of the genre and be like, what can we do to take what people already love and make it better? But stay true to the why people like MMOs so much. And I feel like I kind of want to talk about this earlier, but I kind of forgot, so we won't go too deep into it. But I feel like MMOs in their whole can be kind of separated to like 3 different categories, and it's like the world building, the features, and the mechanics. Yeah. And I feel like if those 3 things are good, then you have a fucking solid MMO. And I feel like World of Warcraft in its prime had all 3 of those things down to a fucking T. The world building was fantastic. The features were there. People loved what they had to do, and the mechanics were good, and they weren't too complicated, and it was a challenge, but it also allowed people to just play the game. And I feel like that's what Ashes wants to do as well. They want to have rock solid fucking tight combat. They want to have, which they've already showed, they want to have a good world building. They want to have good lore that people can get behind, and they want to have a believable organic living world. And then they want to have the features that kind of tie it all together. They want to have the caravans. They want to have the node system. They want to have the PvP be good. They want to have guilds be actually relevant and the actual multiplayer be good. And like New World is a good example of this as well. New World wants to have their combat be kind of like a fresh take and not tab target. They want to have the crafting feel meaningful and good. They want to have the PvP be something competitive, but also not straying too far from what people like in MMOs.
Oh yeah.
And I feel like that is why a lot of these games are generating so much hype, is because I feel like the people that have been the veterans of the MMO genre, like you and I and so many other people, are seeing the direction and the care and the nurture that these companies are taking with this genre, and they're not just fucking with it, and they're not being sacrilegious. They're taking it seriously, and they're doing it out of passion. And a lot of people have a lot of things to say about Amazon, but I feel like the fact that they are willing to not release their game, and the fact that they're willing to now to release the ticket, to lift the NDA, and to show what they're working with, and starting August 25th, they're actually giving people a look at basically an unfiltered look, an unveiled look behind the scenes of this is the game we have to offer, and it is going to change in the next year or two. And they want people to be on board, and like Ashes as well, having all the beta tests that they're going to be having, sometime next year, and not having
a super strict NDA on a look inside their development studio. I just feel like it is going the right direction, and it's hard for people to. It's scaring a lot of people because, like we said earlier, the MMO genre is in such a rut right now that people are grabbing onto a lot of strings and they're reaching really far to try to hold on to some glimmer of hope. But these games are doing it right. I mean, it's not just some random game off the side of the street. I mean, they are legitimately kind of being.
They're going through the correct channels.
Yeah, they're delivering on the promises. I feel like for the future of MMOs to succeed,
these are the type of games that we need to see. And everybody has their own reasons for playing MMOs, but for bringing the mainstream audience and for making MMOs great again, for lack of a better phrase, I mean, it's like, for real, like, making MMOs, bringing them back up to the upper echelon of PC gaming and why people play, and making it be something that people want to log on to every day and play because they want to, not because they have to tick off a checklist. I think that's the most important thing.
Yeah, I want to see these creative ideas. You can be stupid with it. Like, you have a single idea, you're like, I want planes in my MMO, and then building something around it, and then letting the community know, hey, this is what I want to do. Who thinks this is cool? Who thinks that some things need to change? But then it's a mix between holding to your ideals that, like, I need this as a developer, I need this in the game. This is why I'm building the game. And then changing the side pieces so people can feel like it is complete.
Exactly. There's a lot of stuff to be excited about coming up, and there's a lot of I think as consumers and as like gamers in general, especially the MMO genre, we have to be careful with our expectations, especially being able to play the game and having a tangible thing that you can get first-hand experience with is very important. And I feel like from what we've seen from talking to people that have played Ashes and that are very close with, like very in depth, like invested in the development, and like having that direct line with the developers and be able to have conversations with them and seeing their passion, and then being able to physically play the game and see for yourself, although it's work in development, see the systems they already have there and know kind of, okay, I can see where they're going. They're heading in the right direction. I feel like that's one of the main reasons why people are so excited for this, is because there's tangible proof that these companies are delivering on what they're promising.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, these like 17-hour AMAs that come out. So that way, and your people are going, like, everybody who's hype about it is going to ask their questions. Everybody who's ish hype about it can watch this and be like, wow, like, that's cool content. Look at all these people that are hype about it, and kind of merge into that group.
For sure.
Right, that is the passion that's being put forth.
Yeah, and we will see in the next couple of weeks there. I know, and me and you are both keeping a pretty heavy eye on New World, and that's the test is coming up on the 25th, like we said. The kind of like the open the preview, the New World preview as they're calling it. So it's a not beta TM. This kind of coming out. So, and I know we played during the stress test and liked what we saw. So. You can expect to probably see a little bit of coverage on that coming up in the future, but there's a lot to look forward to, and being a fan of MMOs is definitely very exciting right now, and you can tell that a lot of people are kind of in the same boat, and it's generating some buzz. So we'll see how it goes, and we'll see if it's all for nothing really in the future. So I think that's the biggest takeaway. But so I think that's probably going to conclude this episode. If you liked it, please drop a like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. This is probably going to be a weekly podcast series. We expect to record these on a Saturday and then hopefully get them up by Sunday. Sometimes life gets in the way, especially this being kind of more like a hobby and not really considering this being anything too crazy for the future. This schedule may be a little shaky, but just if you like it, please try to subscribe and get on top of it so you can see when any new episodes come out. The next episode next week we're going to be talking about is the culture of mediocrity in video gaming. So a little bit straying, kind of related to MMOs, but straying a little bit more into mainstream gaming and just kind of the market stagnating and the same kind of thing with the hype just kind of ruining the industry and people's expectations being shattered. And just like being a gamer is very hard. Okay, we're an oppressed class. Everything that happens every corner, we're just disappointed. Basically, it can be that's what the next episode is going to be about. Just being a gamer is very depressing. So yeah, thank you guys for listening. Everybody who does, I don't know if anybody's going to listen to this, but at the end of the day, we'll see. So thanks, guys. We'll see you next week.
And bye. Have a beautiful time.
Goodbye.